back around to your initial story, kind of what got you going with the mentorship and coaching. So you had an experience with a guy who ended up not making it, and you kind of took personal responsibility for their shortcomings and what happened. And so what I kind of wanted, and you mentioned a couple times, the process and just the overall way we approach mentorship in the fire service. So what I'd like to kind of hit on for a few minutes is when you had that kind of aha moment, what were some of your key takeaways of things that you felt like you could have done better? What were some things that you felt like were not in place that should have been in place? And then if you would just kind of expound on, now that you've got some time on the job and looking at the mentorship and kind of really, honing in on that particular subject matter, what are some things that you think are absolutely critical for incorporating a successful mentorship process in a fire department?
Sure. So as far as what I could have done better, absolutely everything. I was in a rough time in my life, and I was letting some aggravations and frustrations of the fire department affect me and affect my crew. Instead of me blocking them like I'm supposed to do as a company officer, I had a couple of successful rookies before this individual, and thought that I kind of knew my shit and got a little arrogant, and I just didn't put any effort into him. He came to me with no real experience, and he had some issues grasping some of the stuff. And instead of being there for him and working him through it, I just told him, "You need to get better. You need to get better." The one example I talk about in class a lot is when we were working on hose handling. He said, "Hey, I'm still getting beat up by this hose. What do I do?" And I told him, "Well, I've taught you everything I know about hose handling, so I guess you just need to gain weight." And he took that so serious because he respected me so much that I found out later that he went by weight gainer powder and started taking weight gainer shakes, and it actually made him sick, and he lost weight. And he did everything that he could to appease me because he looked up to me, and I didn't realize it then, until I had that moment. What I took away from that is that I was not 1 ounce of the company officer I wanted to be. I was not 1 ounce of the company officer that I thought I was. I was just a 13-year guy who was being a jerk with speaking trumpets on my collar, and that was it. That was nothing more. I was a loser. And I had that moment. I said, I have to change. And so when I talk about the process, is I wrote down, I have it in my bag here at the house. It's just for love of the job process. And how am I going to invest myself into these rookies and get the crew to be invested into them? And how am I going to turn them out? And it's just a simple 5-step process, right? Make them proud, get involved in their life, ask them how they learn, do your damn job, and the list goes on, right? And when I say that, like, make them proud, what I do now is on their first day, right, instead of making fun of what ice cream they brought or what cake they didn't bake, or did they bake it, did their wife bake it, they put the ice cream in the freezer, they put the cake on the counter, and I bring them to the front bumper, and I make them sit on the front bumper, and I explain the importance of that bumper. I tell them about the shoulders that have been leaned on it, the stories that have been told, the cigars that have been smoked, the gear that it's held. And when you need that moment in your life, when you're having a down moment, the front bumper fixes everything. And I make them sit on that, and I make them sit tall with their fresh helmet, out of the wax job with the orange front piece. And I take a picture of them, right? And then when I take that picture, I tell them, this is the last time you sit on this bumper until the crew says you can. You have to work hard, and you have to earn their respect, so that way you can come and sit on the bumper with them. Until then, here's a rolly chair. And it gives them that sense of pride. It gives them that moment that is so critical for a rookie to say, like, damn, man, like, I'm a fireman. Like, I'm doing this right here. And, they think they're taking that picture because I'm the boss and I said to do it. But the real of it is one, I want them to have a picture of their first moment that they'll always remember. 2, I want them to understand that, God forbid, man, if they die in the next 5 minutes on the first day of their job, that's the picture that goes in the newspaper, that they were proud to work for Pearland Fire Department. They were proud to be there they were a rookie, and here's a picture. I don't want a high school graduation picture. I don't want a picture of them off in the woods hunting somewhere. I want people to notice, like, hey, this guy right here was a proud Pearland fireman. He died doing the fireman's job, and we're going to honor him in the right way. And so that's kind of where it all came about, man. As I made that process, and as each rookie came through that went through that process, I made notes. And I would make notes such as, you know, lots of potential, got to change their mindset, right? Or rough life growing up, number one project, you know, really have to get involved and understand his life and go the extra mile. Or take little notes like that brings me back and says, okay, here's the process. Here's what I got to do. And I would take notes like, you know, make sure I tell this kid I love him. Make sure I tell this kid he's doing a good job. Or this kid doesn't learn through PowerPoint or books. He learns through hands-on. So we have to do a lot of skills-based evolution, sets and reps to get him to get it sunk in, right? And by taking that approach, I had 6 really, really successful rookies after my failure before I promoted to chief. And the process is really simple, and it's not the best process in the world for everybody. It's what works for me. It's what my case studies are based off of, and it's what a lot of people in Pearland Fire Department that are currently senior men and women came up from under, and they're success stories. So,
I love that. That's awesome. That's you know, 2 things there. Why I really, really enjoyed that is, one, your transparency. Right. And not being afraid to say, hey, I messed up. I wasn't always like this, and this is what I learned from it. Right. And, you know, one of the things that I take away from that is, you know, as mentors and everything else, we do need that ability. We need that ability to be able to say, like, look, I know how you feel. I've been there before, and this is what I found out. Right. And that story encompasses all of that. And then, you know, the way you chose to move forward from there, you know, we've all been new, right? And what I can tell you is if I was a new guy all over again and that was my experience, man, I'd be proud of that. That's something that I would probably come home and tell my wife about. It's like, listen, my chief, man, he's awesome. Look, he did this. He took me, you know, we had this great talk. Not only does that make you feel good, but we talk about expectations, right? Unspoken expectations. There are none right there. Like you said it straight out to them. Look, this is the expectations. You'll not sit on this bumper until you're invited, whatever. So that gives them something to work for. So by doing that, what you've actually done, which is amazing, is instilled a level of commitment to that person of I'm going to learn everything I can, but my goal is to be with those guys, because every single guy on that bumper should be a mentor. And I think that's what you've created. And man, that's incredible to hear, because often what really winds up happening is we'll make fun of people, right? They can't start a saw. They stretch a line wrong, whatever it is.
Don't know how to drink coffee.
And we'll just, not make the coffee right. It's too weak. It looks like iced tea, whatever. But we'll make fun of them, right? But very seldom do we actually offer them guidance.
Right.
And say, come here, look, let me show you how this is done. And it's okay to kind of throw those little jabs out there if it's in a fun manner, but make sure that you follow it up with a learning.
It can't always be negative.
Right. You can't always be negative. Anytime that, like, you take a jab at somebody in a joking manner, understand that people perceive things differently. Right. So what I might say to somebody jokingly, they might actually take offensively. So it's like, hey, man, I'm just kidding. Come here. Let me show you how to do it. It's all good. We've all been new before. I've done this. Make sure you share some of your failures with that person, and open up that environment to where it's a transparent learning environment, to where there's an understanding that, hey, you're human too, and you're going to have some errors. Hell, I might even mess up while trying to show you this thing. It happens.
Right.
But the most important thing to get across is, 1, we're in this together. And 2, you know, even if I do mess up, that just proves why we need to solidify things in all aspects, whether it's training, how we treat people in the firehouse, all of it. Because regardless of what we all say on here, I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that I don't have bad days.
Sure.
You know, we all have bad days. We all slip up. You know, we got stuff going on in our personal lives or whatever. We don't always walk into the firehouse and treat everybody the way that we probably should.
Right.
But how you rectify that is pulling them aside afterwards and saying, hey, man, I'm sorry about that. Not making excuses. Just want to let you know that that's not okay. I shouldn't have said that, or I shouldn't have treated you that way. Please accept my apology. And if you don't, I understand. But I just want to at least grab you and let you know that I realized it, and I do apologize.
Right.
That shit right there is powerful.
Absolutely, man.
You know,